Before they were released, all of these movies had a considerable amount of buzz surrounding them. They all had the big stars, some of the finest directors in the land, or were adaptations of beloved source materials. And then they got released, and a less than expected number of people turned out to see them. As you're about to find out, the box office figures for these films fell way below expectations. Despite all the hype, when time came to put money on the table, a lot of folks' wallets remained unopened. Yep, the movie business is one of the cruelest in the world, and there's no such thing as a sure thing in Hollywood. I'm Ewan, you're watching What Culture, and here are 10 movies everyone wanted, but nobody went to see. Number 10. Hugo. What can you say about Martin Scorsese that hasn't already been said? He's the movie GOAT. Through movies like Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, Goodfellas, and The Departed, Scorsese's become one of the most iconic and important figures in all of cinema. Also, he once played a fun fish in Shark Tale, which is clearly his most defining role. That movie also has Peter Falk as a cool sand shark. I need to mention Peter Falk because I love him. Based on the popular book The Invention of Hugo Cabret, 2011's Hugo was Scorsese's first aimed at a family audience. The film world was abuzz with discussion around how a filmmaker known for his more mature fare would handle more kid-friendly subject matter. Despite all this intrigue, Hugo bombed at the box office. It made $185.8 million on a $150 million budget, falling way below expectations. Number 9. POPSTAR. Never Stop, Never Stopping. There was a time where the world belonged to the Lonely Island. The comedic trio, comprised of Andy Samberg, Akiva Schaffer, and Jorma Taccone, took over the internet with their fantastically stupid music videos that aired as a part of Saturday Night Live. If they could get Justin Timberlake to sing about a male genital in a box, they could do anything. The group first took on the movie world with 2007's Hot Rod, a film about a stuntman played by Samberg. Despite becoming a cult classic, the picture was a total flop financially. However, 9 years later, the gang returned for another big screen adventure, all about their specialist subject, music. Surely this one would do well, right? POPSTAR Never Stop Popping was a mockumentary about arrogant pop star Connor For Real, played by Samberg. It was jam-packed with memorable jokes, hilarious songs, and more celebrity cameos than you could shake a booking agent at. And what happened? Oh, the Lonely Island flopped again. The film grossed just $9 million on a budget of over double that figure. Even with the band's popularity and the movie's killer premise, it didn't find a wider audience. Number 8. Predator 2. 1987's Predator is the greatest action film ever. Big guns, epic fight scenes, cool arm wrestle handshakes. Predator had it all. It also had a brand new franchise-leading villain on its hands. The titular Predator instantly captured the imagination of the viewing public. Everything from the way it looked to its arsenal of weapons to the weird clicky noises it made quickly became part of the pop culture tapestry. So, people were keen to see the species return to the big screen. They got their wish 3 years later when Predator 2 was released. This new story moved the action to the streets of Los Angeles and pitted Danny Glover and Gary Busey against the alien hunter. The lions, the tigers, the bears. Oh my. The best line ever recorded in cinema history. Yep, unironically, I love Predator 2. It's not as finely tuned as its predecessor, but what it lacks in John McTiernan's execution, it makes up for in sweat, Bill Paxton, and Danny Glover just straight up fighting multiple predators face to face. No matter what species you are, there's no messing with the Glover. Anyway, the first Predator made over $98 million in ticket sales. As for its sequel, that drew a measly $57.1 million, making it the lowest grossing film somehow in the franchise. Number 7. Steve Jobs. In October 2011, the world lost one of its most gifted minds when tech genius Steve Jobs passed away at the age of 56. Jobs was one of the co-founders and ex-CEO of Apple and helped it to become the global force that it is today. He also co-founded Pixar and was a big proponent of the turtleneck. His life seemed to be perfect for a Hollywood adaptation, which is exactly what it got in 2015. Directed by Danny Boyle and with Michael Fassbender in the main role, Steve Jobs the film had a lot of hype behind it. Unfortunately, it didn't find footing in the box office. Even with its high-profile subject, acclaimed director, and big-time cast, Steve Jobs came and went to little fanfare from the public. It grossed just $34 million worldwide against a budget of $30 million. Many reasons were given as to why it failed to grab people's attention, with Boyle saying that Universal Pictures pushed the film, quote, too wide, too soon. Number 6. Cloud Atlas. David Mitchell's book, Cloud Atlas, went down a treat when it came out in 2004, scooping awards up like they were going out of fashion. There was trepidation about turning it into a movie. It set over 6 different interweaving narratives, which speculators worried wouldn't come across as well on film, but directors the Wachowskis and Tom Tykwer took on the challenge anyway. In the end, Cloud Atlas ended up being a bit of a divisive release. It was called sprawling by some, while others criticized its length. None of this boded well for its box office numbers, which were disappointing to say the least. Cloud Atlas made just over $130 million worldwide on a budget of around $100. Number 5. Zoolander 2. Everyone loved the first Zoolander movie. Starring Ben Stiller as the empty-headed, blue-stealing titular pinup, Zoolander saw a group of fashion industry bigwigs team up to stop the assassination of the Prime Minister of Malaysia. The first film came out in 2001 and did pretty well at the box office. The franchise lay dormant for 15 years, however, until Zoolander 2 made its catwalk debut. But Zoolander 2 was kinda bad. Critics absolutely hated it, labeling it a pale imitation of the original. To make matters even worse, nobody really turned up to see the movie. It made just $56.7 million on a $50 million budget, as there just wasn't the appetite for a Zoolander revival that the studio had hoped for. Number 4. The Golden Compass. Set in a world where human beings are accompanied by shape-shifting demons, the 3 Dark Materials books are firm favorites amongst readers young and old, and continue to sell well many years after their first printing run. These books are tailor-made for a film adaptation. There's a great cast of characters, an engaging world, and it's got armored polar bears in it. What more could you possibly want? I'll take those bears over a cocaine bear any day of the week. Director Chris White had a go at bringing this world to movie theaters with 2007's The Golden Compass. Inspired by the first book in the series, the film boasted an all-star cast including Nicole Kidman, Daniel Craig, Christopher Lee, and Ian McKellen. Even though it did well globally, $372 million at the box office, the film failed to perform in the key US market. In fact, it did so badly in America, production company New Line Cinema were forced to undertake an entire corporate restructure to cope. If fighting polar bears can't sell a movie, then what hope do we have? Number 3. Catwoman. Everyone knows that Iron Man changed the game for superhero films in 2008, but it's not like the genre didn't exist before Tony Stark first suited up. Tim Burton's Batman was moody and gothic, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man pushed the web-slinger to new heights, the X-Men did well until that first bad Wolverine spin-off, and there was also 2004's Catwoman. Wait, that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing at all. Let's be clear, Catwoman should have been so much better. The project had been languishing in development for over a decade by the time it released in 2004. First with the idea of Michelle Pfeiffer reprising her role from Batman Returns. That didn't pan out, sadly, and while Halle Berry is a great actor, the 2004 Catwoman movie didn't do her justice at all. This offering is widely regarded as one of the worst superhero films ever made. Poor writing, bad special effects, weird comic retcons like changing Selena Kyle's name to Patience Phillips. Catwoman had it all, and plenty more. It also didn't draw money, as it failed to recoup its $100 million budget. Number 2. Blade Runner 2049. Ridley Scott's Blade Runner, or at least the final cut and director's cut versions of the movie, is in the mix as the greatest sci-fi film ever made. A grungy neo-noir masterpiece that tapped into the writing of Philip K. Dick, the first Blade Runner is a gorgeous effort that renders the fragility of our own humanity in startling detail, exemplified by Rutger Hauer's immortal Tears in the Rain speech in the climax of the film. Naturally, despite the first Blade Runner not making a splash at the box office and facing an inconsistent critical response due to studio meddling, with time and having been reappraised as a masterful work, the film developed a big following. Discussions surrounding a sequel had been ongoing in the years following the release of Scott's original director's cut, and these naturally accelerated in the wake of the final cut's release in 2007. A full sequel was first announced in 2011 with Scott attached, but he departed the project to focus on Alien Covenant, which led to Denis Villeneuve being named as his replacement. While Scott's departure was disappointing, Villeneuve had a growing reputation off the back of films like Sicario and Prisoners. Throw in the return of Harrison Ford as Deckard and Ryan Gosling as a new protagonist, and it seemed as if Blade Runner 2049 had the makings of a box office smash. Unfortunately, things didn't pan out that way. The film grossed $268 million against an estimated $180 million budget, which wasn't enough to break even. The studio lost as much as $80 million on the film, according to The Hollywood Reporter, meaning 2049 joined the unfortunate club of acclaimed sci-fi movies that failed at the box office. And number 1. Morbius. Hey, thought I had you there. Number 1, The Matrix Resurrections. Me throwing in Morbius humor in 2023. That's how you can tell that I'm fresh and relevant. But on a serious note, let's talk about The Matrix Resurrections and how it bombing is kind of the punkest outcome that could have happened given Warner Brothers' determination to make a Matrix movie with or without the Wachowskis, and Lana Wachowski turning around and crafting a story all about authorial ownership and romance where the main villain is a friendly-facing corporate master. It would have been nice for the movie to make a lot of money, especially given the calls from many fans over the years for the Wachowskis to return to the franchise, but it wasn't to be. Resurrections released in the wake of Spider-Man No Way Home, which was the big movie event of December 2021, and while The Matrix was a big franchise, a mixed critical response combined with a resurgent wave of COVID probably didn't do it any favors at the box office. Resurrections grossed $159 million against an $190 million budget, making it one of the biggest box office bombs in recent memory. Whatever, I love this movie anyway. And those were 10 movies everyone wanted, but nobody went to see. What other anticipated films ended up failing to make a splash at the box office? Let me know down in the comments below, and while you're down there, be sure to drop the video a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that already. Either way, I've been Ewan, thanks for watching, and I'll hopefully see you next time. Bye!